Hey everybody, welcome to the SMC Journal Show. I'm Scott Moore, your host, and this show is all about performance engineering, testing, monitoring, and more. So if you like making software and hardware perform better and more efficiently, this is the show for you. Today's topic is interesting for everybody, not just the geeks out there, because we're talking about something everybody would want to know if you have an internet connection, especially nowadays if you're working from home, whether you're deep into IT or you just have a need to get to the internet to do your work. It's about checking your internet speed test. These are typically tests that look at what your ISP is delivering to you in terms of download and upload speeds. How can you make sure that you're getting what you actually pay for? So we'll just start off with some basic stuff of websites that you can go to and just check real time, what am I getting right now? So walk you through that. Then we'll get a little bit geekier if you want to go there. And then we'll kind of sum up, how can you be sure that you're getting what you pay for and why is that important? So as we are in this work from home mode for a lot of people that we're really not returning to the office and may never return to the office, the home office and the internet connectivity is really important, and it's important that you are fast for a lot of the applications that require a lot of bandwidth. In addition to that, you probably got kids at home or others that are using the internet more as well. So we're talking about somebody in the other room streaming television shows while you're in there trying to work in your office, or maybe the kids are playing games that also require streaming and a lot of bandwidth. So the more devices that we've added to our home network, it just increases demand on the network. And guess what? Your ISP is only one piece of the puzzle. You also have the actual surrounding area. If you're in fiber or you have some kind of a shared bandwidth in the actual cable or media that you're using to get out to. When I say media, I mean the transit, like the cable itself or the fiber or the junction boxes. I live in an area in Central Florida where my particular area, my neighborhood, doesn't have a whole lot of high bandwidth users. I live around a lot of retirees, so they're just casually surfing. They're not running full level servers, the equivalent of a mainframe like I might be. But that's good for me, right? So I can be the bandwidth hog. But then you have that shared capability. You may be in a neighborhood where everybody's working from home. There's more of a demand where you're at. But also, how old is your wireless router? And have you thought about going wired instead of wireless? How good is your Wi-Fi router, that access point through walls or multiple walls, or when you shut the door, or the other side of the house or upstairs? Are you still using the old Cat5 cable, or do you need to upgrade to something that can handle higher transmission speeds? There's just so many factors that involve that. So we can't just run a test and blame the ISP. I'm not getting what I'm supposed to. You should probably check some stuff yourself. Also, if you're connected to a business through a VPN, the actual VPN, whether that's a hardware or software solution, could also be slowing your connection down significantly. So keep in mind, there's all these factors at play here. But it's very easy to find out how to do a speed test. You just go into any browser and type in speed test, and you're going to see the common ones. The one by Ookla is probably the most common one because it comes up at the top. There's also vendor specific. So I'm on Xfinity. You might be as well. There's an Xfinity test. I'm going to actually show you that in just a minute. But there's many other brands of speed test, and I'm going to walk you through a few of those right now. So let's go to Google Chrome and let's just type in speed test. Now you see there's a quick link there that Google provides saying, hey, use our speed test. Okay, thanks Google. So let's do that. This is going to tell me that I'm doing somewhere around 340 megs down, which I'm supposed to be getting 300 from Xfinity, and I'm getting right at 11 up. So I think I'm 300 down, 10 up, and that's what I'm guaranteed. They just actually gave me an increase. But look at that Learn More link from this test result. It's not actually Google, but it's actually a partner of theirs called Measurement Labs, or MLab. So let's actually look up MLab on the internet and find out who they are. So you can find out more about the company on their site, but let's just look at their test. And it should, being that it's the same technology that Google's using, it should be fairly close. And don't worry about any of these links or any of the articles. About the URLs, I'm going to share all those links in the comments of the YouTube video and on smcjournal.com. So don't worry about that at all. You'll get the links. So this is connecting to Miami. We get a little more information. We're connecting to Miami, 340 down, about 11 up. That pretty much matches the other speed tests. Pretty happy with that. Let's look at the most common one out there that most people are used to, Ookla. Right? So it shows me I'm on Xfinity. Now it's connecting, it's even more specific. It's connecting to Comcast on Bonita Springs. So it's Comcast to Comcast talking. It's a 14 millisecond ping time. That's pretty fast. I would expect this to be good. And look, I'm hitting somewhere between 350 and 360 down here, which is good number. That's even better than the last test. Let's see what my upload speed is. And it's actually a little better too. So it's closer to 12 than 11.5 or 11, which I was seeing in the other speed tests. So, you know, how do you know who's right? Well, we should probably check some other places as well. So let's look at those. The next one I looked at was fast.com. This may be one you haven't seen before. It's powered by Netflix, and this one has a whopping 360 megs down. Let's show more info and see. Okay, well, I got a 23 millisecond ping time. I don't know where they're connecting to, but it looks like we have about a 11 to 12 megabytes up. So is my connection secure? That is speed of me. And I could never get that to actually run. I think it's because I have an ad blocker. So I said, you know what? Let's just move on. So I went to testmy.net. They have 4 different tests you can run, and this is a download test you're watching right now, and they download 2 different files. One's about 75 megs, one's about 200 megs, and I think they just get sort of the average of 2 smaller and larger files. Smaller, 73 megs, used to be huge. 214 megs down. That's a big difference to me, but it does say the max was 364, so their measurements are a little different. But you can also go and check their other tests, like this latency test that you're looking at right now, which is like a real time. And I chose the city of Dallas, but you can choose different locations. I really like that, actually. Visualware is another one that comes up in the search engine, but I don't like this one because you have to download something on your machine and run that. I don't like that. It's intrusive. Let's move on. Cloudflare just announced their own version of a speed test. And what's interesting here is they don't go to Miami. They go to their nearest point of presence on their Cloudflare network, which is in Atlanta, and that gives me a 26.5 millisecond ping time, which is almost twice as fast as the 14 milliseconds that I got on Ookla. But look, my download is only a little bit above 300. So to me, I mean, I've seen a max of 360, and I've seen a low of 214, now I see 300. I kind of starting to question this. Let's look at Xfinity. This is my own vendor that I'm under. Surely they would tell me the truth, right? So let's see. So I'm getting closer numbers here to what I saw with the Ookla test. And that, I think that's the technology that Xfinity is using as well. So that's going to give me a download of almost 350. So that's interesting. Well, did you know you can also, if you're on a Mac, you can actually do this from the command line if you're on Monterey. So you got to make sure that you're on Monterey. as the operating system, but just go into a terminal and type in the word network quality with a capital Q. And it will actually run the same type of speed test, no browser required. It just runs it right there in the background. Now, if you run it just with this word, it runs both the download and the upload simultaneously in parallel. And we see I get 338 and change down, and then you get upload, it says flow 10.2. Now, if I run it with the negative or the -S option, that separates the test. So first it runs the download, then it runs the upload separately, and you'll probably see a little bit better results with this. So yeah, you do 340 instead of 338, and it looks like a little over 11 rather than 10. Let's make sure of that. Yeah, it looks like 11.5. So that matches some of those numbers as well. So this doesn't limit the possibilities. There's other things that we can do, which I'm going to show you again. But you see how you can get vastly different measurements depending on the site that you go to, the time of day, where they connect to, if they go, depending on what server they connect to, how big is the file that they download. So in this case, if you're just a casual user and you want to find out, are you getting even close, go to some of these sites and check them out. And you can see the URLs from the show notes. But what if you wanted to get a better measurement? You want to get a little more geekier. You actually can do this in an automated fashion, and you can do it from the command line as well. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to share a couple of other articles with you, and let's look at those right now. These are command line interfaces, which means instead of going to a browser, you can install a piece of software on your computer, like say a Linux machine you can spin up, and it walks you through step-by-step installing the speed test by Ookla as a command line interface. So you can just run that, and this shows you the kind of output that you'll get. Fast.com, remember going to that site, they also offer a command line interface, so this shows you how to install that. And then there's another application that's been around for a while called iPerf. You can install that, run that command after you get your IP address, and it shows you the kind of output that you can get from that. So why would you do that? Well, obviously it's for the geeks, it's easier to open up a command line terminal and just run a quick command and see it. But then you can take that command and you can begin to automate that to say, what if I wanted to run that over and over again throughout a 24-hour period, like say once every 30 minutes or once every hour? I mean, I don't want to run it every minute, right? But I want to get a general average, and over the longer period of time, like say 30 days, if I were to get 24 measurements every day for 30 days, I'm going to get a pretty good average depending on the time of day. I'm probably going to see some kind of a graph form, and that's what really this is all about. So here's another article that talks about how to take one of these speed tests and run that speed test CLI multiple times a day and take the output and put it into a text file. And then you can just look at the text file and just kind of look. You could throw that into a CSV file, Excel spreadsheet, and create a graph. That would be cool. And then if you really want to get even geekier than that, then obviously there are programs that will actually do this for you. This is what application performance monitoring, part of that does. So now I'm not really talking at this point to the people who are the typical user of the computer who just needs internet access because they work from home. But now we're getting into the people who are in my profession, the performance engineer. So this is where we would take and use probably an APM tool, or maybe we're a developer and we build one ourselves. But there's tons of options available to us. But I love the fact that you can quickly go to a website and see what your bandwidth is supposed to be. The question, though, still remains, are these tests, are they telling the truth? Now, it's one thing to know, as I've said, that there's all these variables that can change your speed and the value that you get back. But what if the ISP itself is rigging the test? So even though you might be paranoid, it doesn't mean that they're still not out to get you, right? So let's take a look at something here real quick. This is an article from 2016, kind of old, but internet providers have been caught inflating speed test results in the past. And I will share that with you on my notes. But think about this. Your ISP sees everybody's request, and they can prioritize the traffic based upon where something is being requested to go to. So I'm not saying that they do this, but some have been caught in the past saying, okay, if such and such, anybody, it's not isolated, but if somebody asks for a certain destination and it happens to be the speed test destination, put them in the fast lane temporarily for that request. Let's make us look as good as we can. Maybe that avoids a support call, but then when they're regularly using the machine for all the other requests, they get throttled, they get prioritized at a different level, it doesn't come as fast, and we're talking about maybe just a second or two, or maybe even milliseconds. They're not going to notice, it doesn't matter. I think at that point they're just trying to prevent support calls. But if you take all of that and add it all up as to how many times they might do this, if they put you in the slow lane when you're not checking on them, put you in the fast lane when everybody is, kind of fooling everybody as to what the real service is. So then, these speed tests are supposed to be watching them. Who's watching the speed test? So just some things that you should think about. Another interesting aspect of this is that we know that when you use a service like these speed tests, they're able to gather a bunch of information about you, just network statistics. And I don't think that the collector of this information, such as, I know Cloudflare says specifically they don't take that information and sell it to third-party providers. But Ookla, I don't know what their contract says with you. As a user, if you go, even if you think you're anonymous, there's a lot of things they can tell about you specifically. I don't think they care about you specifically, but the aggregate information is what becomes valuable. As more and more people do speed tests from all of these different locations and all of these through different devices, and okay, this time it's through my mobile device, because there's a speed test app on your phone or your mobile device as well as on the browser. So am I in my home? Am I on the road? Am I hitting an LTE tower, 5G, 4G? When you collect that much information, it can be very valuable to third parties. What if Verizon needs to know, should we upgrade this tower because there's so much more of a demand that's changed in the last year, because maybe a lot of people are moving to that area, they may need to know about an upgrade. Or what if you are an application, you're making an application and you know you're going to have a dense population using your application in, say, New York. So you get the aggregate information from New York, people who work from home with this particular profile, and then you take that network profile and performance test your application using that New York profile. Then you can kind of find out, how's our application going to do in New York? And if that's where most of our users are at, if we can make it there, we can make it anywhere. Yeah, I know that requires a cam link look to the studio cam and amp cam. How you doing, amp cams? Let's get a little music going. Yeah, but there's more to this. So here's another article that I'm going to share. It has to do with a 2018 article about net neutrality and when it was officially repealed. Now this is from June 11th, 2018, and it talks about the ramifications of repealing the net neutrality. And here's the deal. There were 3 things, according to this article, that internet service providers could not do before it was repealed. They could not block any traffic based on the websites or the things that were being requested. It was not lawful for them to block that based on the content. Now they can do that. It's legal. They also couldn't throttle the transmission of the data based on the nature of the content, as long as it was legal content, okay, beyond the pale. Then we have paid prioritization. That was also legal, so they couldn't create an internet fast lane for companies or consumers who paid a premium price. They had to give everybody the same road to drive on, right? So that has all changed after 2018, which may be why we see some of these discrepancies in these ISPs. So for the casual user, maybe what that means for you is you check every once in a while and make sure that you are getting, if you're consistently getting horrible numbers, first check yourself. Do I have a recent Wi-Fi router? What if you try it with a cable and not Wi-Fi, not wireless? If you go wired, what happens? Is that, or then once you've done some troubleshooting inside, if you're just still consistently getting it, then maybe place a support call to your ISP. Have them come out and check things and see what they say. They may actually say, you know what, we're having problems in your area, or here's an upgrade, or you might actually get some money taken off of your bill for that month. If you can prove that I've been watching this for a while, here's some print screens, or here's some output from some checks that I've done over the past couple of weeks. And you'll be surprised, many of them actually do respond. So what do you think about all this? What do you think? Do you think that they're cheating? Do you think that net neutrality, we need to go back to that and try to look at these blocking and throttling and paid prioritization, and we need to do something about that? Or just in general, what's your favorite ISP bandwidth speed test checker? I'd like to know, and maybe you know about some that I don't. I'd like to know. You can always reach me at scottmoore.consulting. There's a link to my profile on LinkedIn, as well as my Twitter handle of Load Tester, and as well you can reach me at help@scottmoore.consulting. And just recently, I have joined Instagram, and if you can find me on Facebook as well. That's been a long time since I've been on Facebook, but it's to share the same information about business. I'm using it for business purposes. So happy to connect with anybody who wants to look me up. So I want to also welcome a new sponsor to the show, which is none other than my friends at Micro Focus, makers of Load Runner, Professional Enterprise, and Cloud. We're very happy to have them as a sponsor. Thank you for sponsoring this show. Also want to remind you that you can go to Haymaker Coffee Company and use my specific code, PERF10, and get 10% off of this wonderful coffee that I love to have. And so that's the show today. Again, if you want to reach out to me, help@scottmoore.consulting, where let me know how I can help you. If you've got questions about some of the content that we've had, or if you have suggestions about what we should talk about in future shows, I'm all ears. Let me know. Until next time, this is Scott Moore for the SMC Journal Report, where it's all about performance. Bye-bye.